In this video, we will be reviewing order of operations, but this time we're going to discuss how to solve them with integers. So when we talk about combining integers, that's our adding and subtracting. Remember when we were doing this activity with our integers unit, we used that little t-table for help, and we were using the little plus signs and the minus signs to help us solve those problems. So if we look at the first one, we have -3. So I'm going to put a -3 over here and write in 3 negative signs. The -3 here, and I have 3 negative signs. And then I have 4 positives, so 4 positives are going to go on this side. And remember, when they are opposites of each other, they canceled, or they clicked together and they went in our imaginary garbage can. So I'm left with 1 positive left over for that problem. For the next one, I had 3 negatives, so I would draw 3 negatives. And then I had 4 more negatives, so I draw 4 more negatives. And then it gives me a total of 7 negatives on that side. They had the same sign, so I ended up just adding them together. When they had different signs, I ended up subtracting them. Now this one's a tricky one, and a lot of you were missing this one when you took your test. When you have that minus and negative, those signs get funky and they both come together to make a plus. Not just one of them, but both. So that becomes -1 plus 9, not plus -9. A lot of you were forgetting that. So that gives me 1 negative on this side, and I have 9 positives on the other side. So this 1 is going to cancel here, and I'm left with 8 positives for my solution. Alright, so let's look at multiplying and dividing integers real quick. This is where you use the triangle. Multiply and divide as usual, but positive float to the top and negative sink to the bottom. And we'll do some examples with that. So let's quickly look at number 7 since it's right beside this. If I do 15 divided by 3, well 15 divided by 3 is 5, and then I have, I'm going to redraw my triangle. Positive float to the top, negative sink to the bottom. So I have a negative times a positive, so I'm left with a negative solution. Same thing if I look at number 8, I have -24 divided by a -3. Well, 24 divided by 3 would be 8. Draw your triangle if you need to. Positive float to the top, negative sink to the bottom. Negative divided by a negative is a positive. So I have a positive 8. If you want to pause, you can do 5 and 6 real quick, and then we can go back up and we'll talk about the addition and subtraction ones. So for this one, 4 times 6. 4 times 6 would be 24, and that's a negative times a negative, so it gives you a positive. This one is 7 times -3. Well, 7 times 3 would be 21, and a positive times a negative is a negative. So those are those 4. Now let's talk about those adding and subtracting ones up at the top. That's the ones that you guys have the most trouble with. So we have 8 minus -2. Remember, that's where those signs are getting funky. They're in line. Both signs together become a plus. So that becomes 8 plus 2, which is really just 10. I have 2 negatives and 4 more negatives. 2 negatives, 4 more negatives give me a total of 6 negatives. I have 10 positives and 2 negatives. They'll be opposites of each other, so they'll end up canceling, and I'll end up canceling 2 of them. And I have more positives left over, so my solution is going to be positive, and it's going to be positive 8. And then number 4, I have 6 negatives and 4 more negatives. They're all negatives, so I just have a total of 10 negatives. So there's our quick little integer review. So now let's start applying them to our order of operations problems. And I do have a little change to make to number 9. You guys have a plus sign right here. Make sure you change it to a dot for a multiplication symbol, because it doesn't work out nicely with an addition sign. So remember, We're still following the steps of order of operations with this. We're still following GEMDAS. So we have GE, MD from left to right, AS. But now we have to incorporate our integer rules. So if I look at this, I have this grouping right there that I need to solve. So I'm going to do 6 plus negative 3. Well, what is 6 plus negative 3? I have 6 positives, 3 negatives. They're different signs. I'm going to have to cancel some. So I'm going to actually end up with 3 positives left over because I have more positives, times 2 to the second power. Now that 3 no longer needs to be in parentheses because there's only one number that's going to be in parentheses, so it's just plain 3. Now that I'm done with my grouping, I can continue down my GEMDAS. Do I have any exponents? Yes, I have this 2 to the second power. Please remember that this is 2 times 2 because it's 2 times. That's 4. And then the last step would be 4 times 3, which would be 12. Make sure you circle your answer. And it should look like a little piece of pizza when you're all done with it. See how I put my little side salad out to the side and then I kind of drew my little pizza here? Okay, you should be able to make a pizza. Make sure all the toppings, all your work, is on your pizza. Okay, let's look at number 10. So we're still following GEMDAS that we learned last time. So I need to do the grouping first. Now don't be distracted by this exponent. It's outside of the grouping. I have to do the inside of that grouping first. So I'm going to do 4 minus 1 first. 4 minus 1 gives me 3. Then I attack with the exponent. So I finished the grouping. Now I'm going to do the exponent, which is 3 to the second. If you need to write it out, that's 3 times 3, not 3 times 2. Taylor Swift says you're not allowed to do that. So 3 times 3 would be 9, and then I have 9 plus 22. And 9 plus 22 gives you an answer of 31. So there's my little slice of pizza. All my toppings of all my work is on it, and I have my side salad out to the side. Okay, same thing with number 11. And if you want to try number 11 on your own, you're welcome to. If not, you don't feel ready, I'm just going to walk you through it. So be careful with number 11. I have a grouping here that I need to solve first. Don't be faked out by that negative 4 because it's just one number. I have to solve 2 minus negative 7. Minus negative, those get funky. That's a plus, so that's really like 2 plus 7. So this is really 9 times negative 4 plus 2 to the 0. Make sure you're bringing down all your toppings. Now I can solve this exponent. Anything to the 0 power is 1. I'm bringing down all my stuff. So I did my groupings, I did my exponents. Now I need to do my multiplication division in line, which is going to be this guy. 9 times negative 4, if you need to, draw your triangle. Positive float to the top, negative sink to the bottom. Positive times a negative gives me a negative solution, and 9 times 4 is 36, plus 1, and then negative 36 plus 1. They're different, so there's going to be some canceling or some subtracting. So I have negative 35. So it's the same thing that we were doing last class, except now we're adding in some of those integer rules. So remember, you're only doing one operation per step, and for full credit, you're going to have to be able to show all of your work, just like we've been doing in class. I don't want to necessarily just see your right answer. I need to see your process. I need to see your work. All right. So 12 through 17, you're just circling what is the first step in solving these problems. I'll do number 12 with you. So number 12 has a grouping, so I have to do this grouping here first. So go ahead, take a pause, do the other 5 that are there, circle the first step. So for number 13, you are actually going to do the division first here. because division and multiplication are on the same level, and whichever one comes first in line. For this one, you have to do the grouping here, 12 minus 7. For this one, you're going to do the exponent. There's no grouping in this one, just a fake out grouping. There's no exponents, so you're actually going to multiply. And then for this guy here, I have to do the exponent. All right, so let's practice solving some of these. So I want you to take a pause, and I want you to see if you can solve number 18 on your own. And when you're ready, unpause the video and we'll check your work. So for number 18, you're actually going to do this division first. So 6 divided by 3 would be 2. Bring down all your pieces that you didn't use yet. I have to multiply next. 2 times negative 7, which will give me negative 14. And now I have negative 8 and negative 14. And if you want to, you can put the 14 in parentheses so you don't lose the sign. Either one is okay. Either way, they're all negative. I have 8 negatives and 14 negatives, so I get more negatives, which is negative 22. Okay, unpause. I'm sorry, not unpause. I want you to pause and try number 19 on your own. When you're ready, unpause the video and we'll check your work. So for number 19, you need to do the division first. So 8 divided by 4 would be 2, plus negative 6 out front, times negative 9 in the back. According to GEMDAS, I have to do the multiplication next. 2 times negative 9. If you need the triangle, do it out to the side. A positive times a negative gives me a negative solution, so this will be negative 18 plus negative 6. If you would like to put negative 18 in parentheses to keep the sign with the negative or with the 18, that's perfectly fine. And then I have 6 negatives and 18 more negatives, so I actually end up with a super negative answer of negative 24. Okay, let's look at our last two for today. Go ahead and pause, try number 20 on your own, and when you're ready, unpause the video. So in this one, you have to do the grouping first. So I have negative 5 plus 10. That gives me a positive 5. All right, and then I have to multiply next. 4 times 5 is 20, plus 61, and then 61 plus 20 gives me 81. So that's 20. Go ahead, try 21 on your own, and when you're ready, unpause the video. So in this one, I have to do the grouping first, which is 48 minus 12, and that gives me 36. Bring down all your work. Next step is going to be this division, and if you need to, do the triangle. 36 divided by a negative 6, so positive divided by a negative gives me a negative solution of negative 6. If you want to keep it in parentheses, go ahead, keep it in parentheses. If not, leave it alone. It's fine either way. And this one becomes negative 22. If you're stuck on any of these problems, please make sure you see your teacher.